Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. And this is a paid request from Michael. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, video DM let's tries, whatever the case, PayPal is usually the best bet, or join my Patreon. The links are in the info box, which is there or there, depending on what YouTube does this week. But the film Michael wanted me to look into was The Panic in Needle Park from 1971. Now, what's major about this film, it's the first leading role from Al Pacino. Now, for those who don't know, Al Pacino is one of my favorite actors. Now, granted, when I think of actors, I think of like entertainment, action, comedy, horror, since those are my favorite genres. But actual, like, dramatic actors, Al Pacino is easily one of the best. From Scarface to Serpico to And Justice for all great films. Any Given Sunday, Scarface is my favorite of his. Even, The Devil's Advocate. Sea of Love, which that'll be a review sometime soon, because that was another request. Very solid movie. Sadly, when he's up there in age, there's just not as much opportunities. Because he's probably, 80 years old or so. He still, makes a movie here and there, which is nice to see. It was nice to see him in Knots Goes Away, the Michael Keaton film. But yeah, Al Pacino, always been a big fan of his. So it was interesting to see how and where he started. And from what I understand, the studio for The Godfather, they did not want Al Pacino. But the director of that film got footage from this film, showed it to them, and this is what helped Al get The Godfather, which then catapulted his career tremendously into, again, films like Heat, which is a great one, among many others. I even don't mind Simone. I know a lot of people hate Simone, but I think Simone is a bit more prophetic than people think. Because I'll just say, if you look up the idea of Simone, look up a trailer for it, you go, they might do this eventually, or maybe already have, but pretty soon they may do this kind of thing with how AI is nowadays. But anyway, this film is a down and dirty, grittier look at two people that fall in love, and sadly drug addiction is getting in the way. You have Bobby and Helen. Helen, she kind of really doesn't have a home. She's with her boyfriend, probably the late great Raul Julia. She just had an abortion. She's just trying to figure out what to do next. Al Pacino visits because he's a small-town drug dealer. Raul Julia owes him money. But Pacino notices just how distraught and how, at times, ill, because the abortion didn't go 100% great. So he visits her in the hospital, and is very nice to her, and ultimately they get together. Al Pacino's drug of choice is pretty much heroin. You don't really hear a lot of people mention that drug nowadays. I'm sure there are people that use it, of course. It's just that you don't really see it. I can't remember the last movie that touched on that subject. I'm sure there is. Again, I just can't think of the last newest movie that touched on that subject. But it's pretty much the two of them just trying to make a living. They get evicted. Al Pacino even warns, listen, I'm a germ. You should split. And then it's, I wouldn't say documentary style, but close to it. It's kind of just them going day to day, living their life that sadly is becoming more and more destructive because of this drug habit. That even though you do get a sense that they love each other and they care for each other, just, this type of life isn't going to work out, especially for her. Pacino, he's a bit more used to it. His character's a bit more used to it, so he baby will survive, but who knows if she can. Now, the reason it's called the Peg and Needle Park is because in New York, Sherman Square, I just got the nickname Needle Park because of all the drug dealers and customers and how many people put needles in their arms. I think this is one of the early films where you actually saw needles going into skin. The show, which seems typical nowadays to show in a film, wasn't really the most typical in this day and in that day and age to show actual needles going and show that kind of drug usage. So, again, it just wasn't something you saw normally in movies up close and unflinching. Sadly, she starts using drugs. I did like the bit where they're playing baseball with kids, and Al kind of notices she's off, and he's all, well, when did this happen? He's not angry, upset, but you tell maybe there's a hint of disappointment, but inevitability with it. And then there's not really a, I guess, say proper plot in terms of, okay, this goal is her trying to get this job, or him, or both of them trying to get clean, or anything of the sort. It's just kind of them going through the relationship and the more downs than ups of it. And I think, it was great to see Al Pacino in an early role, even at this stage in his career. It showed that he had a lot of presence. He had that it factor. Whether him getting angry and upset, or him being lovable and playful with Helen, he had a good range to him. Very nice to see an early role from Raul Julia, who I remember would be in, of course, The Addams Family, The Rookie with Clint Eastwood, and of course, Street Fighter of Jean-Claude Van Damme. I guess they get more into spoilers. At one point, Pacino ODs, and they gotta make him throw up and get cleaned up a bit in the bathroom. The usage is getting worse and worse because then she starts prostituting herself, because at one point she was in jail, and in order to survive in jail, she had to do some things, and Pacino gets pissed about that. Ben ultimately forgives her because the prostitution will garner money. There's even a point where she sleeps with this younger guy who sees a bit more of a meeker guy. Pacino comes in and acts all mad and upset, so he takes the guy's money. Then when the guy leaves, him and Helen, they start laughing and joking and being playful with each other. I guess, in a way, in the phrase of today, this would be considered a toxic relationship, where I guess Pacino knows the streets a bit more, he knows his environment a bit more. It'll be pretty tough for her to survive. And I would say the film itself, I thought it was okay in terms of, it was interesting to see where Pacino started. It's a decent take on the being a bit more unflinching take on drug usage. Granted, to me, the end-all be-all of those type of movies is always going to be Requiem for a Dream. Always going to be Requiem for a Dream. Now, Pacino starring in that kind of film with that director or that kind of visual style, that would have been something. Here is much more simple in terms of the direction, in terms of the look of the film. There's definitely some scenes that are a bit heartbreaking. Again, spoilers, more spoilers. There's a bit where they get a puppy. As she mentions, we should move, and he's like, listen, don't, when you're up, when I'm up, don't be down. He wants to stay, it's his home. He kind of pushes to use. They do it, but they're not paying attention. They're on a ferry. The puppy walks right off the damn boat. She's horrified, and Pacino's out of it. It's like, what's up? And she smacks the hell out of him. She's like, what happened? What happened? And she's just crying hysterically, and he just still doesn't know what happened. And the thing is with Pacino's character, I don't know if you're really supposed to like him later on, because like he never apologizes for that. Like you do get a sense that he cares for her, of course. There's one bit where she comes back and he kind of sitting there, he's out of it, but he's like, I thought you'd never come back. You could definitely sense that she cares about him, even though it's destructive to her. One thing leads to another. This cop gives this lady a choice. You don't want to go to prison. Give up Al Pacino, because he will lead to someone else. He'll probably serve maybe 6 months or so. She does that. Then it cuts to straight him coming out of jail. He ignores her. She follows like a puppy. He goes, well, they start walking hand in hand. Not even hand in hand, just start walking side by side, and the movie's over. And I get what he's trying to do. This is kind of, this. On the one end, it's surprising because it seemed like this type of movie would end with one of them ODing or dying, whether they get killed by another junkie, another criminal, they OD on drugs, shot by cops, in jail for years, decades. Instead, seems as of right now they're clean. One forcibly because they were in jail. The other, she seems maybe a bit cleaner. But at the same time, there's not really an ending. And that bugs me. I know a lot of people love that type of stuff. But it's definitely a good level of uncertainty. I know I'm downplaying the stuff that a lot of people like about it. But again, I can only view, folks, when I do movie reviews, I can only view my own personal taste. Because it's my review. It's not your review, or I'm not going to copy, well, this critic said this review, okay? I'm not James Rolfe. I'm not going to copy someone else's review. I can only give my own personal taste on it. And I don't like that there's really no ending. Sometimes ambiguous can work very well, but in this case, it's like, do they get and stay clean? Or will it be a vicious cycle where a week later, a month later, they're in the same predicament as they were before? And I guess because, like, usually in movies, someone learns something, they learned a lesson, they have a goal, there's a character arc, there's growth, and there's really none of that. Like, did these characters grow? Is there an arc? Doesn't seem like it. Now, maybe it views that where it's trying to be more realistic, but I mean, the other side is realistic too. There are people that grow. There are people that learn their lessons. There are people that get clean. There are people that get their life on track. So that's realistic too. So if you say, well, that'd be the more unrealistic ending. Well, no, that's happened a lot too. But on the flip side, yes, this is also reality as well. That there's not some, as some would call it, a cookie cutter happy ending. In fact, again, like I say, that's not really an ending. It's not really a happy ending. I mean, they're alive. He didn't shun her. But he also, didn't apologize for anything. They're not holding hands. They're not kissing. Is she under Al Pacino's control? Or is she, if that's the case, is she like the puppy where eventually he's not going to pay attention to her and she's going to wander off the ferry, off the boat, and drown in her own ineptitude? I don't know. So that bugs me. That makes it where it's not a film I could rewatch. Even Requiem for a Dream gave an ending. It's a sour ending, but it hits home. It really hit home for me, and it's like, well, this is what drugs can go, and it may not be a happy ending, but it still felt like an ending. It felt like the journey didn't end well, but it did end. Here it kind of just stops, and it's just not my preferred way of an ending, at least for this story. So it does have some good acting. I think the two worked well together. There's definitely some moments that make you pause, like the puppy scene I mentioned. Again, it does showcase Pacino, good actor, even when he's telling about how when he first got busted when he was 9 years old and he was taking the fall for his brother. Always get a bit more wild and crazy. He bumps into, I think, like someone in a diner in a restaurant. And he says a few remarks about the person, and kind of chuckles. Like he definitely, you just see that he would be a star, and at the very least, that's intriguing to see on that front. I do not think this is a bad film. That's why I said it's okay. That it was okay watch, but I'll probably never watch it again. So with that said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.